أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة ووجوه يومئذ باسرة تظن أن يفعل بها فاقرة كلا إذا بلغت التراقي وقيل من راق وظن أنه الفراق والتفت الساق بالساق إلى ربك يومئذ المساق فلا صدق ولا صلى ولكن كذب وتولى ثم ذهب إلى أهله يتمطى أولى لك فأولى ثم أولى لك فأولى أيحسب الإنسان أن يترك سدى ألم يكن نطفة من مني يمنى ثم كان علقة فخلق فسوى فجعل منه الزوجين الذكر والأنثى أليس ذلك بقادر أليس ذلك بقادر على أن يحيي الموتى ثم كان علقة فخلق فسوى فجعل منه الزوجين الذكر والأنثى أليس ذلك أليس ذلك بقادر على أن يحيي الموتى صدق الله العلي العظيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك المعصومين المظلومين. لعن الله الظالمين لكم سادتي من الأولين والآخرين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء. سيدي ما خاب من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. لك العزاء يا صاحب العصر والزمان، بالكرب يتشح الوجود وبالبلاء، مذ حل سبط المصطفى في كربلاء. يا ثاني الأيام من شهر الأسى، أوريت في الأحشاء نارا تصطلى تتنفس الأرواح رزءك كلما تتنفس الأرواح رزءك كلما ذكر الحسين بلا نصير في الفلا. فيك البتول بكت تشاهد رحله، قد حل حيث قضى القضاء. أن يرحلا هذه الطفوف الغاضرية نينوى. يا بل كربلا حيث الزمان يا ربلا. آهين آهين كأن الرمل يدعو فاطما. يا بضعة الهادي استعدي للبلاء. فهنا ستجزر كالأضاحي صحبة، فهنا ستجزر كالأضاحي صحبة وبنوه، حتى الطفل يلقى المقتلا، وهناك تقطع للكفيل كفوفه، وهناك تقطع للكفيل كفوفه، ويطيح مفضوخ الجبين يا الدلاء. يا فاطم لا تأسلي تفصيل ما، يا فاطم لا تسألي تفصيل ما يفني الحياة إذا ذكرت مفصلا، فهنا حسينك سوف يرمى قلبه بمثلث يبكي السماوات العلا، وترين هرولة النساء لجسمي لما الجواد يجيهن مهرولا، ينصاب بقلبي ما تمك يا حسين، ينصاب وذكرك من يمر الدميع، ينصاب قلب بدال قلبك ريت، ينصاب أو خددون خدك على الوطية يا وخددون خدك يا الوطية. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. الإمام الحسين عليه السلام said when he was leaving towards Al-Kufa, he said, إني لم أخرج أشرا ولا بطرا ولا ظالما ولا مفسدا، وإنما خرجت لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي صلى الله عليه وآله، أريد أن آمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر. That I didn't leave in order to cause oppression or corruption. I left in order to seek or in order to try to fix what was ruined in the nation of my grandfather Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. I want to enjoin what's good and to forbid what's evil. Between enjoining what's good and forbidding what's evil, and between the personal freedom, a huge discussion that always comes forward. Before speaking about this detail, I would like to speak about tonight, I will speak about three main points. A point that's related to beliefs, an intellectual point, and the third point is a social point. So the first point is something that's related to our beliefs, and the second point is something that's logical, something that's intellectual about this topic, and the third point would be a social point. It's related to the social life of each and every one of us. The first point, which is the point that's related to aqaid, people might ask, Since the motto of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein when he left, and all of his speeches were under a title of Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf wa-Nahi al-Munkar, enjoining what's good and forbidding what's evil. When we go back and read the sermons of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein and his speeches, we see that all of the titles, the main title that is common between them is Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf wa-Nahi al-Munkar. And when he spoke about the motivations as well, he used to speak about Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf wa-Nahi al-Munkar as a motivation, as something that pushed him in order to leave, in order to do the revolution against the tyrant. إنما خرجت لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي أريد أن آمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر. Here, according to what we know from jurisprudence and people what they know about the Islamic rulings, a misconception might pop up. And a lot of people asked this question. They say that this title that Imam Hussein alayhi salam used as a motivation for his revolution, this contradicts with some of the conditions that are taken into consideration when it comes to enjoining what's good and forbidding what's evil. How? One of the conditions of Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf wa-Nahi al-Munkar, enjoining what's good and forbidding what's evil, is that I have to do it, it's my duty, unless it causes harm. If harm is caused, or if I suspect that there would be harm if I fulfill my duty towards this detail in my religion, this might cause harm. In that case, I have to leave it. It's not a must anymore. Since this is a condition, why would Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he knew that he's going to be killed, that his family are going to be killed, and the women are going to be held captive, as I mentioned last night, that he said, شاء الله أن يراني قتيلا وأن يراهن سبايا, that Allah's will is to see me slaughtered and to see them held captive. He knew that, and yet he left. And the title of his speeches, the motivation of his revolution was Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf wa-Nahi al-Munkar. This is what's called At-Taq'id al-Fiqhi. When we have a general ruling, and then there is a specific conditions that in that case you can't apply this ruling. How do we solve this question? How do we answer this question between this condition and between Imam Hussein alayhi salam facing Yazid, even that he knows that this is going to cause harm? The answer is that this misconception doesn't work at all. It's not even logical. It works only if I am speaking about a normal person, not about an imam. Al-Imam Hussein alayhi salam is not any person. He's an imam. We take the rulings from him. And this is how we derive all of our rulings from the narrations of Ahlul Bayt. Apart from the Quran, we have the narrations of Ahlul Bayt. The Ma'soom, which is the Prophet, and the Imam, the infallibles. Their words and their actions are a proof. Even their silence. What does that mean? Their silence. When a person in front of the Imam does something, if the Imam doesn't say anything, he saw him and he didn't say anything, he didn't say that this is haram and this is not allowed, it means it's permissible. Because it's his duty. If he leaves any mistake go without even asking and telling what's right about that behavior, it means he's not fulfilling his duty that he was sent to fulfill. He is the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the holder of the divine message. So his silence, his words and his actions are a proof. So when we look at the actions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we do not make it subject to our questioning because it contradicts with another ruling. We say that his action gives us an additional ruling. So what we learn from what Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam did is a new jurisprudential ruling. It means that al-amr bil-ma'ruf wal-nahy an al-munkar, they might be a must even if I suspect harm in some cases. So it's wrong to question the Imam. And this is what a lot of people, wal-iyadu billah, nowadays they do. We have authentic narrations. All what they do is doubt and question them. Even that a lot of scholars, they depend on them in deriving rulings. Just because it's not compatible to their minds, they refuse it. It's not compatible to their opinions, to their lifestyle, they refuse it. They say that it's just a narration and we are following the Quran, and they forget about what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إني تارك فيكم الثقلين كتاب الله وعترة أهل بيتي, that I left for you the two weighty things, which is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and my household. So how does this duty, enjoining what's good and forbidding what's evil, be a must even when I suspect harm? Our scholars, they say that this case needs to be analyzed a bit. We have to compare in this case between the amount of ma'ruf, the importance of the ma'ruf, the value of the ma'ruf, the goodness that I have to enjoin, and the amount of the harm. If the amount of the harm is greater than the value of the ma'ruf, in that case, I have to leave it. It's not a must anymore upon me. But if what's ma'ruf, what's good, the goodness is greater than the harm, in that case, I have to fulfill my duty towards enjoining what's good. There is a narration that Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam says. He says, يكون في آخر الزمان قوم مراؤون لا يجيبون أمرا بمعروف ولا نهيا عن منكر إلا إذا أمنوا الضرر. At the end of the time, there would be people they do riya, they do not enjoin what's good, and they do not forbid what's evil unless they make sure that they are safe from harm. يطلبون لأنفسهم الرخص والمعاذير. They seek excuses to get rid of this duty. Then he says, هنالك يغضب الله عليهم ويعمهم بعقابه. When they do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be angry at them and He will blind them with His punishment. When we understand that, we understand why Imam al-Hussein used that title as the motivation of his revolution, Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf, because the harm that's caused from leaving that duty, from not enjoining what's good and from not forbidding what's evil is greater than that. The harm is very great, which is affecting the religion. And we spoke last night about the importance of this religion for the people and in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So al-ma'ruf, what is the amount, what is that goodness that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was seeking? He spoke about it in his sermons. For example, he said, وَعَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ السَّلَامِ إِذَا بُلِيَتِ الْأُمَّةِ بِرَاعٍ مِثْلِ يَزِيدٍ. The Islam is going to be wiped if the calamity that's called Yazid will fall upon this nation. And in his message to the people of Al-Basra, he said, أَنَا أَدْعُوكُمْ إِلَى كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. I invite you to the book of Allah and to the sunnah of his prophet. فَإِنَّ السُنَّةَ قَدْ أُمِيتَتْ. The sunnah of the prophet is being killed. وَالْبِدْعَةُ قَدْ أُحْيِيَتْ. And the innovation is being revived. This was the situation at the time of Imam Hussein alayhi salam when Yazid was in charge. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he saw that this situation, this environment will lead to the wiping of Islam, wiping of the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi if he didn't stand up. The second point, because I said that I'm going to speak about three main points tonight. The first point was related to our aqidah, the importance of taking the words of Ahlul Bayt and never question their actions according to our minds. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam says, Deenullah la yusab bil-uqul, that the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be judged by our minds. I cannot use my logic and make the words of Allah and the rulings of Allah subject to my logic. The second point is the intellectual point. When we go back to the narrations of Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim, because they are the people who put the rules by the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We see that these narrations, they assure on something, which is this duty, al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi al-munkar. We read in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And let there be from you a nation inviting to good, enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong, and those will be the successful ones. And in another verse, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ يأمرون بالمعروف وينهون عن المنكر ويقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة ويطيعون الله ورسوله أولئك سيرحمهم الله إن الله عزيز حكيم. The believing men and believing women are allies of one another. We have to be allies. They enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong, and establish prayer and give zakah and obey Allah and His Messenger. Those Allah will have mercy upon them. Indeed, Allah is exalted in might and wise. Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam speaks a beautiful word about this verse. He says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started with this duty, which is al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar, for a reason. And He started with it as a duty, as a must to the people, because He knew, or He knows, that if this duty is fulfilled, all of the other duties are going to be straight, are going to be exactly as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, whether if it's hard or easy. When this duty is fulfilled in any community, prayers is fulfilled, fasting is fulfilled, piety is fulfilled, the good morals that the Islam came with are fulfilled. When people are helping each other, when people are being a mirror to each other. Al-mu'minuna wal-mu'minat ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd. The problem, what is the problem that we usually face? When we see something wrong is happening in front of us and we want to fix it, the first problem that we face, there's something that's called the personal freedom. I see someone listening to music, I tell him this is haram. He says, I'm free, I have a personal freedom. You have no right to come and tell me. He is committing a sin in front of the people, publicly. When I come and ask him, don't do that, he says, it's none of your business. I'm free. This is my personal freedom, even between the father and the son nowadays. The son reaches a certain age, he tells his father, I'm free. You cannot ask me not to do certain things. I'm over 18. I'm a man. This is a problem that we face whenever we want to fulfill this duty. Here, there is a question that would come out. Is that personal freedom would be an obstacle in front of fulfilling this duty? In front of fulfilling the duty of enjoining what's good and forbidding what's evil? 3 points or 2 points will answer this. The first point, is there a personal freedom in Islam? Do we have in Islam something that's called personal freedom? In Islam, we don't have an expression like that. We don't have anything that's called personal freedom. The personal freedom is something, it's an expression that's made up by the modernists. Those people who want to fulfill their lusts and do whatever they want without being questioned. Those who want to cut the road in front of the faithful ones. They want to form an obstacle and a barrier between them and reaching and being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me explain that to you. Of course, there's nothing that's called a personal freedom only in the limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put. Who is the only one that has the right to put conditions on me and remove these conditions from me? These conditions that can limit my freedom. No one but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the people. He is the only one that puts these conditions. When I say freedom, it means freedom from these shackles that are called conditions. Everything has a limit. I have a limit in my behavior. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one that put these conditions on me. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lifted these conditions, then I have freedom in that limit. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts these conditions, then there is no way, it's impossible to have this personal freedom. And we have to distinguish between the rulings that are a must and the deeds that are optional, that are recommended. My duty when it's a must, like the permissible things, the wajibat, like prayers and fasting, and what's forbidden, like drinking alcohol or eating pork, wal'iyadu billah. And between the other deeds that are, for example, mubah, allowed, or recommended, or unlikely recommended. When it comes to the must, things that I have to do and things that I have to avoid, in Islam, I don't have something that's called personal freedom. But in something that's recommended, yes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me a permission to leave it or to do it. This is when it comes to the logic in religion. Let's speak about logic in the society, apart from religion. When you come to someone and enjoin what's good and forbid him from doing the evil, and he tells you, I have a personal freedom, ask him this question. Is this personal freedom has no conditions? Is it general or it has certain conditions? No one would say that it's a total personal freedom that it has no conditions, because there's something that's known, it's called that your freedom would end when the other person in the society, when his freedom starts. When your freedom is going to trespass on his freedom, you have no freedom anymore. This logic is beautiful in the communities. I can use this in order to face this person in his deviation and in his committing the sins. So this limited and conditioned freedom forbids you from doing certain actions, certain sins, certain deviations. So you look at this sin from a certain point of view, and I look at this sin from a different point of view. You look at it, you say that I'm only harming myself. I tell you, no, you are causing harm on yourself and on others in the community. There's a beautiful narration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He says, مثل القائم على حدود الله والمداهن عليها مثل قوم استهموا في سفينة. He's saying the people who are obeying the rulings of Allah, the orders of Allah, and the people who are disobeying the rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he gave an example of these two groups of people. Like a group of people who have a ship in the sea. Some of them, they took the upper part of the ship, and some of them, they lived in the bottom part of the ship. Those on the bottom part of the ship, they said, we will make a hole in the ship. We are not causing harm to the people on the top. This side of the ship, the bottom side of the ship, this is ours. We want to make a hole in it. We are not causing harm to the people on the top. If the people on the top let these people on the bottom do whatever they want, all of them will perish. All of them will drown. Because this hole in the bottom of the sea will make the ship sink. And if they stood up in front of them and forbid them from doing that, all of them would survive. So here there is nothing that's called freedom, because every deviation will cause harm to others. That's why personal freedom does not make an obstacle or a barrier in front of the duty of enjoining what's good and forbidding what's evil. The third point and the last point, which is the social point, something that's related to the social life. The relation between postponing for the forbidding of the evil and the universal rules, the style and the system of the life that we are living in. The narrations, they warn us from postponing, forbidding what's evil. And unfortunately in our communities, this duty is ignored. People, they don't understand its value. We see that the youth, they do whatever they want. And the grown-ups, their only duty is to provide and look after their houses. And they don't bother to guide these people, guide the youth, boys and girls. Al-Quran warned about that. The Quran says, لُعِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا من بني إسرائيل على لسان داود وعيسى بن مريم ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون. Cursed were those who disbelieved among the children of Israel by the tongue of David and of Jesus, the son of Mary. That was because they disobeyed and transgressed. كانوا لا يتناهون عن منكر فعلوه. Why were they cursed? They used not to prevent one another from wrongdoing that they did. That's why they cursed. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a different verse says, وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ لِيُهْلِكَ الْقُرَى بِظُلْمٍ وَأَهْلُهَا مُصْلِحُونَ. And your Lord would not have destroyed the cities unjustly while their people were reformers. So their people would perish if they leave this duty. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned us about leaving that duty? When there is no enjoining what's good and forbidding what's evil in the community, there's two main dangerous things that would happen. The first, that the deviated ones, they would dare more and trespass more and commit sins more. There's nothing to stop them. There is nothing to warn them. They are not afraid of anyone. No one is standing up as a barrier or an obstacle in front of them. They would dare more to do these wrongdoings. And the second effect, dangerous result from leaving that duty, which is the most dangerous one, زوال قبح المعاصي من نفوس الناس. The ugliness of the sins and that feeling that we feel after committing a sin would go from the inner selves of the people. When a sin that's known in the community and everyone does it and no one stands up in order to say that this is wrong and this is haram, it becomes normal. I remember before in Lebanon, when women on the TV, in a certain series for example, if a bit of the neck is shown, they used to cover it with black. Whenever there is a poster that there is a topless man or a woman that's not wearing proper clothes, people used to go and spray it. And that taught us something that was very important in our community. When people stopped doing that, nudity became normal. And children are seeing it, the youth are seeing it, everyone is seeing it, and no one is saying anything. Now it's normal. You see it everywhere, even on the so-called religious channels. Of course, I'm speaking about overseas. So this is the most dangerous effect that would result from leaving that duty that sins will become normal to the people, normal to the youth. It's not something that's awful for them. It's not something that is very ugly for them. The question is, how do I forbid what's evil? Do I have to stand up above the person's head and tell them that this is haram and this is not allowed at all times? Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, when he speaks about the verse that I said, لُعِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِن بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ, that cursed were those who disbelieved among the children of Israel. Why? When he speaks about they used not to prevent one another from wrongdoing that they did. How did they do? How did they did the wrongdoing? How did they commit the sins? It's not that they were doing the sins with their hands. He said they were cursed because كانوا لا يدخلون مداخلهم ولا يجلسون مجالسهم. They never did what the evil ones did. They never gathered with them, the same gatherings. But what they did, إذا لقوهم ضحكوا في وجوههم. Whenever they met him, they smiled in their faces. وأنسوا بهم. And they would be at ease when sitting with them. Smiling with them, it means I'm satisfied with whatever actions that they are doing. This is one of the example of postponing, forbidding what's evil. And the worse than that, what's worse than that the person who enjoins what's good, he is the person who is hated by the community. He's the person who's criticized by the community. All of the community would stand up in front of his face. They would say, there's a person, they're free to do whatever they want. It's none of your business. And this is one of the main reasons that made the scholars go inside their houses and lock the doors on themselves. Because of this, people standing up in their faces and not letting them deliver the message. This is part of the reason. What I mentioned last night. This situation has a lot of effect on the system around us, on the style of the life of the people. One thing that I would mention is the community that does not fulfill this duty will suffer from no security, won't be secure. This community won't be secure. And this is what the narration of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks about. He says, لَتَأْمُرُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلَتَنْهُنَّ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ أَوْ لَيَبْعَثَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ مَنْ لَا يَرْحَمْ صَغِيرُكُمْ وَلَا يُوَقِّرْ كَبِيرُكُمْ. That you have to enjoin what's good and forbid what's evil. And if you do not do that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send upon you people over you who will not have mercy upon the youngsters in the community and won't respect the elders, the adults, the old people. وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ لِيُهْلِكَ الْقُرَى بِظُلْمٍ وَأَهْلُهَا مُصْلِحُونَ. And your Lord would not have destroyed the cities unjustly while their people were reformers. That's why Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam left, in order to fulfill this duty, teaching us the importance of this duty by sacrificing his family, sacrificing the dearest of the people who lived around him, starting with his son Ali al-Akbar, starting with his brother Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Didn't even care about what's going to happen as long as the Islam is going to be safe. And then after he left Al-Madinah towards Mecca, and then he left Mecca towards Al-Kufa, while he was on the way, he had to stay, he had to stop in the land because he was forbidden from continuing his path towards Al-Kufa, and he was forbidden from going back to Al-Madinah. He had to stay in a certain area. He started to ask about that area as if he was looking for Karbala. He started to ask, what is the name of this land? They told him this land is called At-Taf. Then Abi Abdullah al-Hussein said, is there another name for this land? They said, it's called Al-Ghadiriya. He said, is there another name of this land? They said, Nainawa. Then he said, is there another name for this land? They told him, Karbala. He said, oh Allah, I ask refuge to you from the tragedies, from the karb and the bala and the calamities. Then he said, in this area tragedies will happen. Come down and build the tent. This is the place that my grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi told me about. They all came down from their horses and their camels with Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam. Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam went to land of Karbala and built his tent, and he started to prepare his weapon and fix his sword while he's saying these verses of the poem. Ya dahru uffin laka min khalili hal laka kam laka bil إشراق والأصيل من صام طالب وصاحب قتيل والدهر لا يقنع بالبديل وكل حي سالك سبيلي ما أقرب الوعد من الرحيل. He started to speak about this life. He said, oh life, what a friend you are. You betray us and kill the closest of our friends, and everyone is going to follow my lead in this. Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam heard him as she said, oh brother, these words only come out from a person who's certain of his death, from a person who knows that he's going to be killed soon. In كان هذه كربلاء بشروا بلايا نزلوا ترى لاحت علامات المنايا. إن كان هذه كربلاء بشروا بلايا نزلوا ترى لاحت علامات المنايا. لازم بجانبها النهار نقضي ضمايا. طير المنية اسمع على راسي نعيبه. كم شاب ما يهنى بشبابه يظل معفور. اجسامه تبقى رمية ما لهم قبور. الإمام الحسين عليه السلام says, if this is Karbala, get ready for tragedies. The signs in this land shows its calamities. It is decreed upon us, thirsty to be slaughtered. Beside the river our bodies will be shattered. Then Imam al-Hussein gathered his brothers and his cousins and his family members, and he looked at them and cried, and he said, Allahumma inna ahlu itrati nabiyyika Muhammad qad ukhrijna wa turidna wa uz'ijna an haram jaddina wa ta'addad banu Umayya alayna. Oh Allah, we are the family of your beloved messenger Muhammad. We were forced out of the Medina of Rasulullah, and Banu Umayyah are attacking us. Allahumma fakhudh lana bihaqqina wansurna ala al-qawm al-zalimin. Then he came to his companions and he said, An-nas abidu ad-dunya wad-dinu la'qun ala al-sinatihim. That the people are the worshippers of this dunya. وهذا وزينب تسمع مقالة أخيها الحسين. All of this, and Zainab is listening to her brother Al-Imam Al-Hussein. Why they went down to a land that has no water, has no shadow, but she still felt safe that the flag of her brother Abul Fadl Al-Abbas above her head. This is a day where Zainab alayhi salam went to Karbala. Her brothers are beside her, her cousins and her nephews are there, the companions are there. Imagine what was her situation when she was about to leave Karbala on the 11th day of Muhrram in al-Haram, looking at the bodies of her brothers slaughtered on the sands of Karbala. The tents are on fire and the orphans running around. They don't know where they're going. They circled around Zainab. She started to cry and scream, oh brother, oh Hussein, oh brother, oh Abbas, ya Husseina, ya ibn Makkah wa Mina, ya Muhammada. هذا حسين بالعرى مرمل بالدماء. Oh grandfather Muhammad, come and see your grandson Abi Abdullah al-Hussein cut into pieces on the hot sands of Karbala in a bloodshed, and your daughters are being held captive. وإلى الله المشتكى. جنت يوم الذي ما أشوف ملقاك تظل روحي حزينة لما نلقاك. ما أدري شلون هذا اليوم فارقاك. تظل بكربلاء واحنا مرحلين. أفاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا وقد مات عطشانا بشط فرات. يا الله إلهنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين بالعقيلة زينب, hasten the appearance of صاحب العصر والزمان, fulfill his needs, grant us the tawfiq to be of his supporters, to be of the maris between his hands. اللهم بفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها فرج عنا يا الله فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر أو هو أقرب من ذلك. اللهم كل وليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ولتعجيل الفرج واستجابة الدعاء وقبول الأعمال وقضاء الحوائج وشفاء المرضى وإلى أرواح أموات المؤمنين والمؤمنات الشهداء والعلماء وخدمة الحسين. هدى الجميع ثواب ما قرأنا وثواب المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. يا حسين